Good evening. Call this regular meeting of the Fairborn City Schools Board of Education to order, June 6th, 2019. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Browning.
Here.
Mr. McCourt. Mrs. Malad.
Here.
Ms. Reister.
Okay. I have a motion to approve the agenda as modified, as Mr. Philo was discussing earlier, which is removing items 11, 12, and 13.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs.
Second.
Malad. Thank you, Mr. Browning.
We're going to keep trading.
Just go back and forth the whole meeting.
Mrs. Malad.
Yes.
Mr. Browning.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes, motion carries. I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Thursday, May 2nd regular meeting and the May 13th meeting, joint meeting with the Fairborn City Council.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Malad.
Mr. Browning.
Yes.
Mrs. Malad.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes, motion carries. All right, board reports and good of the order.
Can we start?
Yes.
Well, congratulations to the teachers on a successful, and staff, everyone, on the finish of the 2018-2019 school year. We had a lot of fun at graduation. Handing out diplomas has got to be one of my favorite things, and it's always the older my daughter gets, the more people there are that I know that I'm handing diplomas to, which is really fun. So I definitely had a good time with that. So.
Okay, Mr. Browning.
Okay. The month of May was a pretty busy month, to say the
that
least,
again.
almost
Yeah.
every night. All of the music programs, the choir, band, and strings all had their end-of-year concerts, and all of those were great, and I'm always amazed with the talent that's in the district. On May 7th, all of us got to go around and for staff appreciation, teacher and staff appreciation, went to every classroom, tried to meet with every employee of the district and hand out apples and just saying thank you for the job that they do all year long, every year. So that's always a neat event. It's fun interacting with the kids too, especially when you get into the primary school, how many of the little kids come up and give you a hug as you're walking through, and they all want apples too, and we have to explain that they're for the teachers and staff. Andy mentioned a joint meeting with the city. It's good to do that, and I think we need to keep doing that, joint planning, just to make sure we're both on the same page, because we always say how the city goes, so does the school district, and really that's the opposite, that also the city depends on the district being successful too. Let's see, May 17th was Jazz Fest, and anybody that hasn't been to that really needs to try to go to that next year. It's an annual event, big fundraiser for the band, and it's a neat event, and again, there's a lot of talent between the vocalists and the band. And then finally, May 21st was the DARE graduation. And I wanted to thank Officer Zink for the job that he does. It's interesting watching how he develops relationships with those kids, which is really important as they grow up, not only respect for law enforcement, those types of things, but understand that law enforcement can also help them through problems and answer questions and those kind of things. So I wanted to thank Officer Zink for the job he does. Thanks.
Okay. All right, now I'll echo the busy month of May. It's, the calendar is full of evening events in May, really starting back in the end of April when things kicked off. Not much to add from what else was said here, but yeah, graduation is always a great culmination for the school year, so congratulations to all of our graduates and all of our staff members for bringing those students along for the past 14 years of their lives. So a job well done for everybody. Right. On the legislative side, the House passed a bill to repeal House Bill 70 by a margin of 83 to 12. that went into the Senate for review, and the Senate, in their infinite wisdom, has created an academic distress work group, which wants to somehow maintain parts of this academic distress commission. And there's an Ohio School Transformation Plan, which they're calling an alternative to the Academic Distress Commission, which they've published, and they held one hearing last week in the Senate Education Committee on it. Now, it's interesting that this work group contains no classroom teachers, and nobody from at that level, in particular from the districts, the 3 districts that are taken over, Lorain, Youngstown, and East Cleveland, nor from Dayton or Cincinnati or Columbus, to find out what they really need to do to help these students along. And they seem to think that spending $20 million on consultants is a solution to that issue. And perhaps if they invited some teachers and paid for their mileage and lunch, they might get some really good feedback of what might happen. But that's not in the plans. So if you want to call Peggy Lehner's office or Senator Hackett's office and tell them that they need to, yeah, he's on the House, so Perales is in the House. It would be Senator Hackett, Senator Lehner, and tell them that you strongly want to maintain the House vote of abolishing the academic distress commissions and the related school takeovers. So that's it for me. So we'll continue to item 8 here, school district presentations. Mr. Lally?
Okay. First up, we have here tonight Mr. Mike Eaker from the Greene County Career Center.
Whoops. Yeah.
Recognition of visitors.
I
He skipped one.
did my usual thing here.
He
I've
skipped one.
Skipped one.
Fire
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Browning. Recognition of visitors and public comments. If there's anyone that wishes to address the board, please step up to the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Way to go, you almost skipped Donna.
Yeah, you'd have been in trouble.
You're in trouble now.
Well, as the liaison to the city, I just wanted to let you know about some fun.
Okay. Your
Oh,
name?
Donna Wilson, 442 Zimmer Drive, Fairborn. Anyway, as the liaison to the city of Fairborn, wanted to let you know about some fun activities that will be going on this summer. The first one I can think of is Wolf Stock, and this is a downtown dog-friendly event featuring local musicians, a dog costume contest, food trucks, a movie, Beethoven is the name of it, and a beer garden. The proceeds will go to the Wag Pad, which is our dog park up on Sand Hill Drive. There is a Battle of the Bands on July 13th, and there's the they will have, it's from 4 to 10, and the doggy wolf stock is also from 4 to 10. But the Battle of the Bands has the bands have an opportunity to play. It's from 4 to 10, and however many bands can play. Who wins will get to play at the Wright State University Festival of Flight on October 5th, and there's a prize of $2,500 for that. And of course, we can't forget the Sweet Corn Festival on August the 18th, 17th, and 18th. This Saturday at 10:30, there's a grand opening of the fitness court at Central Park. I think we're the second one in Ohio, maybe third and we were very privileged to get a grant to cover most of the costs of this. And then there's a roving van with equipment and leaders that goes around to different parks this summer and to offer recreation to to the children in the neighborhoods. And I just wanted to reiterate what Mr. Wilson was talking about, the repeal of HB 70. Some of these districts across the country, when they've done this in other places, and I'm not sure about whether they did this in Ohio, but they want to involve the mayors of the city to become involved. Well, Chicago's probably a good example of that. But I asked our mayor, I said, would you like to be involved in running the city schools? And he said, no. And I said, why not? He said, well, I don't know anything about curriculum or what needs to go on in the classroom. I'm not a teacher. So I think it's important that they do involve teachers. They do involve curriculum specialists. They do involve local school leaders to find out what we need. And it is important to contact especially Senator Lehner's office and then the district senator to express your opinion. And that's totally not representative of the city council. That's me. So.
Okay. Anyone else?
Go see D-Day over at the museum, it's really good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Seeing no one, we'll close recognition of visitors and now move on to school district
Okay.
presentations.
From the Greene County Career Center, we have Mr. Mike Eaker to give us a monthly update on what's happening at the Career Center.
Probably just comes out of there.
Yeah, just pull the mic out. There.
As unaccustomed as I am to using a microphone, handheld or otherwise. My name is Mike Eaker. I am the the Fairborn representative to the Greene County Career Center, and try to give you a report every now and again. Tonight I'm going to talk about our new facilities. This is where it's going to be, and if you're not familiar with the middle of the county, US 35 bypass and US 68, and then this is Union Road coming out south of Xenia, and we own now 37.5 acres right there. The good news, two good things. One is it's about as geographically central to the county as you can get, which I think is sort of appropriate for a county facility. And two, when we finish the structure, you'll be able to see it from 35 as well as 68. All right, that didn't help. What did I do?
Already seen some of the stuff
Oh, okay.
going on
Yeah, I
there.
know. Couple of things. As I did send out the monthly Career Center newsletter, and you might have noticed that Chapel Electric, which is one of the subcontractors working for Shook Touchstone, who's our lead, they actually have hired 20 or so of our wiring students that are going to help them this summer to pre-assemble wiring harnesses at the Chapel Electric facility. And good thing. This is all good stuff because they're going to learn more about what electrician is all about. They're going to be doing the pre-assembling the wiring harnesses so that they will be easier to install once they get there. They'll be pre-assembling them in a controlled environment and under good supervision. So this is great. And having been through some of this in my own Air Force career, doing similar things, doing it in an environmentally friendly facility should result in faster, safer, and better quality of the goods coming out. When they get these harnesses done, they're going to put them in dunnage. They'll be shipped out with the room number of the room that the wiring is going into, dropped off there, and then installed once it's appropriate. Yeah, the other thing is, they're in the midst, there's a lot of stuff going on in the facility. You'll see, I'll show you some pictures of what looks like mud, and it's actually better organized than that. But we're looking forward to getting the slabs, basically, since it's that first floor, they're going to start pouring concrete for finish on that this month. And the steel, the structural steel is going to be delivered starting on the 24th and start erecting on the 26th. Our hope is to have a beam signing in August, which is the equivalent of groundbreaking. For those of you who were aware of the weather in Ohio this past winter, when we actually did break ground, it was not appropriate to ask anybody in their right mind to go out and enjoy speechifying and ceremonial shoveling. So anyway, we're going to do that, and that will signify our recognition of the hard work that's gone into it and the rewards coming. And let's see. Oh, tell me that this is going to come up. Okay. These pictures were taken by, I think, the fire station drone in early April, and that's basically, you'll see the outline. We've got a huge drainage pond out here, and primarily because this part of Ohio is known for having high water table, a lot of content, and we had a really wet winter. So they built this, and I'm finding out a couple of interesting things. That this pond, the retaining pond, is going to have a 3-foot ledge, 4 foot underwater, all the way around, so that people who are not smart enough to stay out of it won't drown if they fall in. I think that's the nicest way I can think of to put that. Going for in early, this is what it looks like early April. Come on, I know you can do this. Late April, you can see these are pads that the structure is going to ride on. This is, as you can see, we're not completely underwater all the time, but quite honestly, for a lot of what they're still doing, they are using bulldozers and other equipment to help push and pull trucks trying to get in and out. It is, I'm not going to quote you all of the numbers on moisture content and that, but it's one level above a swamp. There's another picture of it. You can see the outline of the building in here. It basically, all of this, it's going to be 264,000 square feet of facility for the kids. And when it's done, this is theoretically what it's going to look like. Just some pictures. It's going to be interesting to see how close it comes to the artist's rendering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And these are the views from the front of the building. It's going to be interesting to see what it looks like from the highway, but I'm sure it's going to be good.
Promise that moon every time?
No, I'm not even promising you'll be able to see the sky every time. After all, we're in Ohio. So, and oh, by the way, and this is a plug for career technical schools. Since about 60% of the jobs nowadays don't require a degree, there's no sense in going into debt when you can actually make just as much money coming out, getting a diploma, a certification, and a job, and then finding out just what you really want to study and as you continue your education throughout the rest of your life. Here's some more. This is basically, we're going to be able to fly drones inside the building, and that's what this is all about. Have a facility so that we can have robotics, have drones, new programs. There's your basic robot over there in the corner. I'm going through these fast, but I'll leave you a copy if you really, really want it. And we're going to have to have a mezzanine, and we're going to have classrooms upstairs, and then all the workshops, and that'll be on the ground floor, and that will aid in the education process, because the equipment's going to be moving in and out. Just keep that where it's easy to get to. Oh, come on. So here are some of the features. As I said, 264,000 square foot. Great location. We're going to have a take flight lab. That's essentially where we are going to be able to do all this flying. We're going to add cybersecurity to our current list, and I'll show you the list shortly of all the current programs. And we think this is exactly what Greene County needs. I think, as a matter of fact, this is what Southwest Ohio requires. Here are the programs today. You can see we have the Career Center programs in the first column, the first two columns, and then we have the satellite programs, which include the programs that we have here. And this is where we have the curriculum, we have the teachers, and we can provide them on site here. Now, one of the last two satellite programs are actually done at the Agricultural Research Center, which, if you have never been out there, it's on Brush Row Road. It is I think a 20-acre farm, horse farm. It has a heated indoor riding ring. Now, if you've ever ridden horses in the winter in Ohio, having a heated indoor riding ring is a real treat. So it's great, and we have a full-time veterinarian who's our instructor out there, Dr. Kelly Rickabaugh, and she does great work.
Did that facility escape the tornado that was?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Yep. It got my house instead. When we open up in 2020, these are the new programs that we intend to introduce: an advanced materials engineering course program. And for those of you who are not engineers or in technical billets someplace working, you'll find out that almost every technological breakthrough is done as a result of somebody inventing some new material that will allow it to work. And whether that's metals that you can form and fly because they're light enough, but you can figure out how to make them, or it's rare earth materials that you can use to make better chips. It's advanced materials. In fact, the biggest limitation right now on jet engines is the ability of the turbine blades to withstand the extreme pressures and heat of the exhaust. Automation and robotics, and this will be again aimed at the automotive and aerospace industries, as a side that also works for medical technology and biomedical work. Cybersecurity, which if you're paying any attention, is a real big one. That's in great need, and in fact, if anybody says they're a cybersecurity expert, they probably are overestimating their own ability versus the challenge. And then UAS, that's a nice way of saying drone technology, unmanned aerial system, and that's what they're calling it nowadays. And since we weren't busy enough, Dave Deskins said, well, if we're going to have a take flight initiative, we got to have aircraft mechanics. So we are in the process of building a new facility, a new hangar, essentially, out at the Greene County Airport. And it's backed by an $850,000 state grant to provide a place where we can train. In 2 years, we'll be able to train aircraft mechanics. I think I've mentioned this before, but I wanted to show you what it's looking like. This will be the classroom. We're going to have all the stuff, if you will, and that you need to allow the students to have their labs. We're going to actually have to have 2 aircraft inside the hangar that they're going to work on. Of course, then you have this is where all the admin is. And we're going to have a mezzanine and upstairs where we're going to have an upper level, which will be where we'll be storing things that we don't need on a daily basis. But by the way, this will sit right next to the newest hangar and will be essentially the same dimensions. So it will look just like another hangar, except it'll be a little prettier on the outside. So that's where we are, and I thank you very much for your time. Are there any questions? I'll be glad to answer any if you have them.
Yeah, I don't have any.
Ann's got one after.
Yes, ma'am.
What's gonna happen to the old
We don't know yet. There's a sort of an order in which the educational facilities are to be handled if we're going to be leaving them. And we're exploring the different opportunities. The main one, the first one would be if another educational institution would like to purchase it, they would be first in line. And we are working with some educational institutions to do just that. But,
they have our scout roundtable there.
mhm.
We'd like to use the bus or their merit badge, stuff like that, so.
Well, whoever takes over ownership of it will probably be, hopefully will be open to that. Yep, we'll see. Yes, ma'am.
When do you expect it to be completed?
We are aiming to open in August of 2020. Yes, it is an aggressive schedule, and right now we're still on schedule to meet that date. In fact, I spent 2.5 hours down with the design build team today. For some strange reason, I think it's because I've done this before. I've been a program manager most of my life. They like me being present at these meetings. So anyway, I was down there today, and there are bunches of issues, but I think I think we have a better than even chance of making and a lot of the better than even means that God has to be a little bit more lenient in his weather. Because it has been a real challenge to get through right from the get-go. We had a cold, wet, miserable winter that segued into a cold, wet, miserable, and then dangerous spring. So maybe we'll have something I almost would really like to have a drought right now. But since I don't have any control over the weather, and God listens to me and always answers me and sometimes says no, all we can do is pray. But any other questions? Somebody was going to, nobody asked about tornado facility. And since nobody will ask, I won't tell you. Oh, okay. I know you guys have gone through this, and for one point in time there was a state law that said it had to have a tornado room. Since that law no longer applies, when we did our design, we knew it was not going to apply to us, but we decided that because we were sort of in a tornado-ish area, that we ought to maybe design for something. So essentially what we've done is we have in one of our inner rooms, in fact it's our multi-purpose room, that is large enough to house the entire student body and administration. It's interior. It is being constructed with let me get the term right. I believe it is reinforced masonry walls. So essentially, it is, I'm not sure it's going to stand an EF5 tornado, but it provides a lot more protection than anything we have right now. Our walls are actually going to be poured concrete. So rather than have cinder block, which is porous and lightweight and doesn't stand up really well, these are going to be all reinforced and with a lot of structural steel. So we're doing everything that we can to look at that particular phenomenon and design around it, design for it. So, anything else? With that, I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, here to give us a construction update from Hill International is Julie Taggart.
We too would like to have some dry weather. I'm here because we are working on the intermediate school through the design of that. We have, they've gone ahead and kept designing, but right now we are approving the design development for the intermediate school, which means we're one step ahead to that last bid day, and everything is in place. And as part of that, it's on your agenda to approve. You've got the resolution. And as part of that, there is the agreement for the locally funded initiative of it's about $3.6 million. And that is for extra classroom space or extra space, so extra square footage over and above the design manual allowed, master plan allowance, as well as some cost escalation that we've had in the current market conditions. And then are there any questions about our project?
No, we've had lots of updates on it.
Good,
Yeah, that's
good.
nice.
I'm glad everybody's communicating. If you have any questions, don't feel free to ask us. Any
Okay.
questions on the intermediate school?
Just to follow up on the primary, as a precaution, the day after Memorial Day with the tornadoes that went through the area, we brought up from Cincinnati some structural engineers, and myself, Mike Parkinson, the lead architect for SH&P, and the structural engineer went and inspected every wall of the primary building to make sure there was no damage, and I'm happy to report that the structural engineer didn't even see a stress fracture or anything like that. So we were very fortunate. We dodged a huge bullet, and just to add to that, our hearts go out to a lot of the community in the surrounding area that was not so lucky. You know, you can see pictures on TV and in the paper. You drive through some of the neighborhoods, and it is very, very sobering. And I don't know what some people are going to do. Some of those neighborhoods, I don't think they'll salvage some of those neighborhoods. That's how bad it is. We did have a few staff members that lost some of their home and lost their farmhouse. A couple teachers at the junior high probably their farmhouse is not salvageable. So our hearts and prayers go out to them. So again, we're in good shape at the primary, and we're intact. So next up is Kevin Philo for a financial update.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It gives me great pleasure to present the monthly financial report for April. I want to take you back in history a little bit. A couple months ago, when I talked about February 2019, I talked that it was such a thing of beauty that I had to frame it because it was off roughly $44,000 out of $30 million. And I told you at the time I didn't think it could get any better than that. But I'd like you to turn your eyes here. I'm pleased to present the April 2019
Finding these frames.
monthly financial report. More than a thing of beauty, it's really a masterpiece. That out of 37 million, it's off $16,000.
Wow.
So it's like 1/25th of 1%. Do not expect me to get any closer than this. This is just a freak of
You'll
nature.
need a bigger frame.
Yeah, how much of the budget went to that?
That's my own personal frame
Okay, good.
that I bought at the thrift store.
$16,000.
So, but when
wife missing that?
when we get the grade cards up, we're going to have even huger frames. So,
Yes.
be thankful you weren't at the administrative meeting where I had a little song to it, a little improvisation. But the monthly financial report, you see it in your packets, and the clicker.
How early did you have to get here to hide that?
In terms of, as I said before, out of 37 million, we're off $16,000. The good news is we're $1 million over in revenue. We expect that to continue. For May, it is a little bit off. We projected to pay for the language arts curriculum stuff. That did not happen in May, so it's going to be $600,000 off to the good. So, but we're really pleased with how everything is tracking, especially with the new additions that we did in staffing starting in the beginning of the year. keeps us on track to end at about $29 million, which is a good place to be. But part of the monthly financials is I want to provide these benchmarks to show value. And the new CUP report came out from the state of Ohio that shows the expenditures. They're always a year late, so this is fiscal year 18. What you saw last fall was fiscal year 2017. And these are some of our comparables in the area. You'll see Fairborn here at a little over $9,000. You'll see Greene County in green, statewide in yellow, and then the group average in black. And there's been a few changes here and there, but really in terms of this is how much we spent per pupil last year. And so this by itself really means nothing. You showed before, compared us directly to Huber Heights and Troutwood, but I one day had a little variable in it this time. They also had the performance index scores for last year. And the performance index scores for Fairborn was a little bit over 80. And you can see if you look at this in terms of we're right below the group average. And a lot of times we're compared to Troutwood, Springfield, West Carrollton, Huber Heights, Mad River, Xenia. Our performance index was all above that. Very close to the group average. Yes, there are schools ahead of us, and yes, we will increase that. But if we, to really show value in terms of if we take performance and sort of overlay that with expenditures, if we overlay the performance index graph over the Fairborn, the expenditures per pupil, you can see that in terms of we spend a lot less than most places, spend less than Troutwood, West Carrollton, Huber Heights, Mad River, and Xenia, yet our achievements are above that. So to prove value in terms of what we spend for what we receive, I think truly shows value of the Fairborn schools. The Fairborn schools are a good value and a good investment. We know we want this to grow. So does every other district. Okay, we want instruction to improve, but to compare those two really shows value, especially those districts that we're similar to. And I don't mean to get into Sue's area curriculum, but I thought it was just interesting to show value. So, with that, any questions? I will conclude for this evening, and I will not get a bigger frame than that. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at that, you know, the money and the performance are definitely not related, because you've got schools that aren't spending a bunch that have good performance and schools that are spending a lot and not having good performance, and vice versa, you know, just mix of things, so. Okay, move on to item 9, budget and finance. The April financial report. Member agreement for computer services with Maveca and disposal of some old school buses. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning. I'll second it.
All right.
Mr. Browning,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes,
Mrs. Malat.
Yes.
motion carries. Okay, item 10, administrative reports and superintendent recommendations. This is a wide variety of things of stipends and professional development stuff. And most importantly, on page 9, item B on page 9 of the agenda is the recommendation to approve the graduating class. So the rest of the, there's no, you know, the various hirings and retirements and things contained in here. Anything else that we should call anybody's attention who in particular on this?
Just items A through J all.
Okay. And we have some donations from Fair Creek Church, a refrigerator to the homeless liaison, and a $50 gift card from Sam's Club for the Fairborn Primary School. So, anything else? We have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Browning. Thank you, Mrs. Malad. Call the roll.
Mr. Browning,
Yes.
Mrs. Malad,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes, motion carries. And we have a public preview of a couple of textbooks for middle school health and high school health, which are available on the counter here. So,
No other.
anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Malad. Thank you,
Whoever says
Mr.
it
Browning.
Mrs. Malad.
Yes.
Mr. Browning,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes, motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you for coming tonight.